Good morning. She has a microphone. Not to become your worst nightmare. Today, Thursday, February 13th, 2025, Linda MacMahon is before Congress in her hearing for Secretary of Education. Linda MacMahon's experience in education is serving 1 year on the Connecticut State School Board. Remember when one of the critiques of Kamala Harris was that, despite having served in all three branches of government, she maybe wasn't qualified for the job? Anyway, Trump's order for MacMahon is to lay a smackdown on the Department of Education. That's all the wrestling puns I have. He wants her to work herself out of a job. Trump and Republicans want to see the education department dismantled. And while Linda can certainly start gutting it, it would take an act of Congress to shut it down. Let's see how this is being covered. First up from Fox News, experts reveal how Trump can keep campaign pledge to eliminate Department of Education, quote, scaling down its size. The expert is from the Heritage Foundation. Shocked, I tell you, shocked. It also includes this quote from Donald Trump from the 2023 campaign trail. Quote, one thing I'll be doing very early in the administration is closing up the Department of Education in Washington, D.C., and sending all education and education work it needs back to the states. This was also the argument made in overturning Roe v. Wade. And we see how that's gone. Remember, the argument over the abolishment of slavery was that it should really be a states' rights issue. And before anyone says that Abraham Lincoln was a Republican, like it's some sort of gotcha, because of my public school education, I can tell you that the values of Lincoln and the Republican Party are certainly not the values of today. Just look up Richard Nixon's Southern strategy and how Southern states started flipping Republican around that time. Remember, a large goal is school choice, aka we don't want our tax dollars supporting marginalized low-income individuals, and to get rid of all the indoctrination that is going on in schools, which teachers barely have time to do their lessons. Schools are overcrowded, and you get the additional worry of a potential mass shooting every day your child goes to school. I don't think we're focusing on the right thing. You need to have a boogeyman, because that is what people rally around. That gets the clicks, that gets the headlines. It was not that long ago in Colorado that Republican nominee for governor said that there was litter, kitty litter, in classrooms because kids were allowed to believe that they are cats. Horrifyingly, what was discovered was that there is some cat litter in schools. It's because in case there is a lockdown, there's a place for children to use the restroom. The Department of Education has been an ongoing battle since it was created under President Jimmy Carter, and they've been more successful as labeling it as indoctrinating and DEI and pushing all of that than they have with the actual funding that it received. What this article leaves out is that the Department of Education accounted for 4% of all federal spending in the fiscal year 2024. 4%. If you're looking to curb wasteful spending, I don't really think you start there. In some excellent reporting from Up First from NPR on Linda MacMahon and the Department of Education, which included the fact that it's one of the smallest federal agencies. It oversees important things like sending money to schools in low-income communities and protecting students with disabilities. The House hearing on education last week is also referenced. A reporter allows us to hear from both sides, a Democrat and a Republican. Basically, what the Republican representative from Missouri argued was that Biden and the education department were pushing liberal identity politics over learning. The reporter played a clip in which he said, quote, how can we get back on the focus of educating kids rather than indoctrination and bloating our school bureaucracies? Famously, the problem with public education is that there's too much money. Here's the problem. That statement is false. And instead of presenting it like, here's what one side thinks, here's what the other thinks, okay, bye, the reporter follows up in her discussion with Michelle, one of the co-hosts, in saying that, quote, the department doesn't actually play a role at all in shaping school curriculum. The law prevents it from doing just that. People that are against the Department of Education depend on people not knowing and not taking the time to look it up or knowing where to look up what the actual laws are on the books of what the Department of Education can and cannot do. Instead, you have people believing that they're sending kitty litter or pushing some woke agenda, when in reality, they're just trying to provide an education for all. Yes, there's clearly a problem with American education. Our children are suffering. A global pandemic did not help that. But often China is invoked, and why aren't we doing as well as China? Well, China has the world's largest state-run school system. It's funded by the government. And I'm not here saying let's be like China, but in an effort to root out unnecessary government spending, I'm not sure I would start with the Department of Education. Anyway, what a time to be alive.